Good morning, Newport. Tonight is kind of a big deal. We're hosting two very special guests, our incumbent state assembly member representing the 74th District, Cottie Petrie-Norris, and her challenger, Newport Beach City Councilwoman, Diane Dixon. Tonight, we have a great format planned for the forum. We're going to start with 3 easy softball questions. The candidates should enjoy this first part. Those are going to be followed by 6 short answer questions where the candidates are going to state where they stand on an issue and be given the opportunity to clarify their position. And then finally, we have 4 long form questions where candidates will have 2 minutes to answer to the best of their ability.
Before we begin, you might find it important to know what the State Assembly is. I didn't know myself. It's California's version of the Federal House of Representatives. With 80 members, State Assembly is the lower house of the state legislature. The upper house, the California State Senate, has 40 members. Like I said, it's our state's Congress. State Assembly members work with the State Senate to create legislation specific to California. On average, the legislator will analyze, propose, and debate over 6,000 bills in a single 2-year session. So if you tune out now, at least you learned something today.
Now, let's introduce our 2 candidates. Cottie Petrie-Norris is our current assemblywoman for District 74. She worked in tech and finance before being elected to State Assembly in 2018. She chairs 2 committees in Sacramento, the Accountability and Administrative Review Committee, as well as the Select Committee on Student Debt. Cottie lives in Laguna Beach with her husband, their 2 sons, and their dog, Flounder. And Cottie's challenger is Diane Dixon. Diane is currently in her 2nd term on Newport Beach City Council. She served as mayor in 2016 and 2019. She's on the city's Finance Committee and served as the chair for 3 years. Diane represents District 1 in Newport Beach, which is comprised mostly of the Balboa Peninsula.
Now that you know
Thank you, Alex and Riley, for having us. It's wonderful to be here. I'm really looking forward to a good discussion.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, now that you know a little about our candidates, let's begin. Here at Good Morning Newport, we're trying to start a new tradition at political debates and forums, a radical idea called being nice. I'm going to ask each of you, what is one trait or quality of your opponent that you admire? Cottie, let's start with you.
Well, I have to say, I really admire Diane for running for office. It is hard to put yourself out there. It's hard to step up and step in. And I have a ton of respect for everyone who does that. And while none of us could have anticipated that we'd be campaigning in the midst of the pandemic, running in the midst of this public health crisis has been particularly challenging for all of us. So hats off to you, Diane, and hats off to everyone else who has stepped up to run this cycle and stepped up to serve their community.
All right, Diane, what would you say about Cottie?
Well, I kind of go right back at her, just that she's been in Sacramento dealing dealing with Sacramento. It's a challenge for anyone, regardless of the party. There's just a lot going on up there, a lot of interesting policy making, and certainly with the COVID, it's made it more challenging, and certainly giving up her personal time in her life to devote to public service. As just back at her, I admire anyone who could do that and give time away from family and her children, and to be in Sacramento and give up wonderful coastal California a few days every week to go to Sacramento. That's admirable.
All right. Well, I don't have a strong enough imagination to think of how that previous question would have unfolded at the presidential debate. Like Orange County flipping blue, that'll never happen. Oh, wait, that did happen. Let me try a different joke here. Okay, here's something a little more audience appropriate. Like Gavin Newsom paddling out Newport Beach, it'll never happen. Our next question is another fun one. We know that District 74 represents Costa Mesa, Laguna Beach, Laguna Woods, Newport Beach, and portions of Irvine and Huntington Beach, but we are Good Morning Newport. So we wanted to ask you, what is your favorite date night spot in our beautiful coastal community we call Newport Beach? Diane, we'll start with you.
Oh gosh, there's so many places, but from a restaurant in my own district, there's a wonderful restaurant that my husband and I spend every anniversary and birthday, is the Dock restaurant in Newport Beach. That's probably our favorite. Lido House Hotel is right up there too. There's just so many wonderful restaurants to choose from. And that's what we enjoy doing. And they're just wonderful places to enjoy, and being down on the beach and the boardwalk and walking around our community. That's always fun. And going to the movies. We can't wait to get the movie theaters back open. That's what we need. That's what we do more than anything else, and go to the movies, but we haven't been doing that for 8 months. So let's get the movie theaters back open.
And Cottie, when you drive down Pacific Coast Highway to Newport, what's your go-to date spot in our city?
Gosh, you said you were starting with the easy questions. This is kind of a tough one. So I think our favorite, my all-time favorite Newport spot has to be the Beachcomber at Crystal Cove. It is just absolutely magical there, whether you're there for brunch or family lunch or a candlelit meal. So I'm going with that.
Great choices all around.
Yeah, great spots. Our final opening question relates to District 74 as a whole. From Huntington down to Laguna, what is the biggest issue facing our district? I'll start with you.
I'll tell you right now, as I am talking to voters and talking to residents, the number one issue on people's minds is COVID-19. This is a global pandemic, and it is a major crisis for our state, for our country, and for the entire world. And it is top of mind for constituents right now. And it's impacting every aspect of their lives. So I've been very focused on COVID-19 response and recovery, and ensuring that we are implementing common sense solutions to navigate this crisis and to get California on a path to recovery so that we can build back our community stronger than ever.
All right, thank you, Cottie. Diane, what would you say?
Well, I certainly agree. COVID-19 on a macro level, just as Cottie indicated, from a global, national, state. But what I hear from constituents, from residents, is really the desperation that people are feeling now with the state of the economy, the business closings, the job losses, and the reverberation throughout the entire Orange County and this district, of course, economic deprivation. I mean, it's just so, it's sad. It's taking a human toll, not only in loss of business, the economy, but the mental health issues is painful to talk to people. Every day I talk to people about their situation, and I guess I'll talk more about this if there's more time to talk about COVID. I just want to get our businesses and our schools open safely and responsibly, quickly.
Well, don't worry. We'll definitely be talking about COVID again tonight. That concludes our first round. Next, we have our short answer questions. The first four are going to be yes, no. Each candidate will begin their answer by answering the yes, no question, and then we'll ask each to back up their position. After that, we'll have three more short answer questions. Please try to keep your responses under a minute, hoping to catch the end of Thursday Night Football.
Do we have an opportunity to make an opening statement?
We are going to give you a chance for a closing statement. Can you
I'll hold it
there?
Okay.
Closing, it's kind of like an alpha omega statement at the end. So.
Okay. All right. Okay.
And we'll give you all the time you need.
All right. I'll say it's opening and closing. All right. Because that's when I was going to say thank you for doing this. So.
Oh, well, hey, yeah, don't jump the gun. You can still thank us.
I had a line I was going to say. Good evening, good morning, Newport.
Love it.
Our pleasure.
All right, so first question. New propositions are popping up on the ballot faster than roadside Trump merch booths in conservative Orange County neighborhoods. One of the most hot button props on November's ballot is Prop 22, which, if passed, would exempt companies like Uber and Lyft from following laws put into place because of Assembly Bill 5. Cottie, you voted in favor of Assembly Bill 5, and Diane, you criticized Cottie for her support of AB5 on your website. Our question is, do you support Proposition 22? Why or why not? Diane, we'll start with you.
Sure. Let me just be clear. I am strong yes on Prop 22, and I am strongly opposed to the new law that is AB5. I strongly oppose AB5 because it has now made independent workers illegal in the state of California. It has resulted in the most job loss from a single bill in California history. It has irreparably hampered our ability to recover from the COVID crisis and has reduced flexibility and employment opportunities and has completely devastated certain sectors of the economy. It is shocking for me to learn that hundreds of independent workers in our district tried in vain to reach their assemblywoman, and she never responded to their phone calls or letters, nor would she meet with them. There was total shutdown and fundamental to their livelihood that they could not speak with their assemblywomen. These stories, I've met with them, I talked with them. These independent workers are reeking in devastation. The only problem I have with Proposition 22 is it does not go far enough because, as you know, it just applies to the Uber and Lyft drivers. My first bill as a member of the assembly would be a comprehensive repeal of AB5. My opponent, as you said, voted in favor of this bill every step of the way in the legislature. And as a reward, her campaign has been flooded with millions of dollars in contributions from labor unions. AB5 should be a cautionary tale, terribly written, with hundreds of carve-outs for special interests. This is the worst time in the middle of a pandemic to make it impossible for people to independently work. The legislature's mistake continues to cost the livelihoods of hundreds of thousands of workers.
Wow, it seems like you definitely were prepared for that question, Diane.
I talk about it every day.
All right, well, I think the point of the debate is to hear both sides. So Cottie, very excited to hear what you think.
So yes, I voted in support of AB5, and I'm not sure, Diane, that you necessarily understand what AB5 did, or in fact, what the repeal of AB5 would do. So AB5 was in response to a Supreme Court ruling regarding the classification of California workers. So actually, if you repeal AB5, it will apply this more stringent standard that you object to all industries and to all independent contractors in California. So when I look at the issue, the policy issue at question is the classification of workers and whether workers should be classified as employees or as independent contractors. And I consider kind of three things. So number one is we've got to ensure that bad employers don't misclassify workers. And the reason for that is because it ends up hurting all of us. When bad employers are cheating the system, we all end up paying for it. Good businesses pay for it, and good taxpayers pay for it, and good workers pay for it. Number two, when we look at this issue area, we've also got to make sure that government doesn't get in the way of Californians' ability to earn a living. And increasingly, this is coming in new paradigms and more flexible working practices, which I fully support. And number three, we do have to ensure that as policymakers, we are taking steps to incentivize and to create and not stifle innovation, and ensure that we are taking steps to continue to grow the 5th largest economy in the world.
Okay, well, glad we could start on a hot button issue. Thank you both for your answers. A lot of unprecedented things happened in 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic, political divisiveness like we've never seen, and Orange County refusing to listen to scientists and mask up like the rest of the state. Oh wait, we kind of expected that last one, didn't we? One of the watershed moments of 2020 was the marches and uprisings that sprung about to protest racial injustice in this country. Question here, do you support passing legislation to reform racist institutions in this state? We'll start with you, Connie.
I do, and I'll tell you, right now and for the last 4 years, we have had a man in the White House who has trafficked in hate and in division. And we've seen a couple things happen in response to that. On the one hand, we have seen a really just horrific and precipitous increase in racially motivated violence, hate crimes, and harassment. And on the other side, we have seen a groundswell of Americans who have said, nope, that's not me. That's not my country. That is not who we are, and that is not who we stand for. And we have seen a multi-generational, multi-ethnic, or multi-racial coalition come together and call for a moment of reckoning around race and bias in this country. And it's an important conversation, and it's one that that I am engaged in wholeheartedly, and believe that we need to bring everyone around the table in order to continue to move California and America forward.
Okay, and Diane, your response?
Well, thank you. I think it's an important question, and it's definitely a topic of conversation and should be a continued topic of conversation, but more down to the state, California. I do not believe that we have inherently racist laws. However, there are problems with social injustice, and I believe we should look at the root cause of where that comes from. And it's not any one individual, wherever. It's really, it's institutionally, and perhaps we should look at education. The best way to solve education inequality is through school choice, and data shows that inner city children perform better in charter schools, especially in poor areas, and parents should have the choice to send their children to a local public school or charter school of their choice, which is best for their children. And my opponent opposes charter schools and has voted to make it harder to establish charter schools and cap charter school attendance to protect failed public schools. And I'm at a loss to why that anyone would be opposed to charter schools, because I think educational choice is a human right. If we're talking about rights and civil rights, I think educating our society is our #1 priority, along with public safety. And I think that these kinds of reckonings and discussions can be started first with making sure every child has a good education and they can grow up to be contributing members of our society. It's a fundamental right.
Okay.
Cottie, we saw you shaking your head. Do you want 30 seconds to clarify where you stand on charter schools?
Yeah, I'm surprised to hear Diane kind of misstate my position that way. So I wasn't sure if Good Morning Newport had a robust fact-checking operation, but that's not true. I absolutely believe that charter schools have an important role to play in our educational ecosystem. And we've seen good charter schools right here in our own community who have done an incredible job for our kids. And I absolutely support that.
Okay.
So this week, our Senate ushered in a new Supreme Court justice in just 52 days. Many are concerned that with the new justice's past beliefs, Roe v. Wade may be overturned and millions will lose their reproductive rights. If Roe v. Wade is overturned, would you support state legislation to protect women's reproductive freedom? And I believe we're starting with you, Cottie.
So like women all across America, it sends a cold chill up my spine to think that Roe v. Wade is under threat. And the bottom line is right now, women's rights and women's reproductive healthcare rights are very much under assault in America. And it is more important than ever for us to elect leaders, select good women and men who are going to stand up for women's rights, stand up for women's reproductive freedoms. And that is absolutely what I have done and what I will continue to do as your Assemblywoman.
All right, thank you, Cottie. Diane.
You know, I can't predict what's going to happen, but I believe it's settled law at the Supreme Court level. I mean, in fact, Justice Amy Barrett has said that from a constitutionalist point of view, she respects the settled law. And I'd be shocked if this changed. And so as far as the state of California, I believe generally it's a state issue. I'm on record as supporting limited aspects of a woman's right to choose. I do not support the Democratic platform of allowing late-term abortions. So I think in cases of extreme risk to the mother and to the child that there should be some allowances for that, but I am opposed to late-term abortions and mid-late-term abortions, but with a caveat for the woman's choice. But I don't think it's going to be an issue. I honestly think it is settled law.
Well, I hope you're right on that point of settled law.
Newport Beach is one of 3 coastal cities in Assembly District 74. When Riley and I moderated the CDM Residents Association Newport Beach City Council Candidate Forum, we asked candidates if enough was being done to combat rising sea levels. Similarly, we want to ask you guys, do you believe that climate change is one of the most serious crises facing our district, our state, and our world. Diane, we will start with you.
Okay, it's a real problem. I certainly agree, but we have data that shows that the sea level has been rising over the last 100 years. So any responsible government official in the coastal city needs to be aware and attentive to that. So sea level rise, and just in terms of natural barriers like sand berms, our city is constantly working on keeping those sand berms elevated, and will continue to, and there's sand replenishment that will contribute to that, and sea walls that are raised. But on a broader answer in climate change, it's a real problem, but banning gasoline cars in 15 years, I don't think is the answer. I think we can focus on incremental changes to making sure that our technologies bring in new renewable technologies, absolutely, but not to eliminate fossil fuels and anything to do with fossil fuel that affects every facet of our industrial system. So nationally, that could be dealt with. At the state level, I'm focused on clean air and clean water. Those are my highest priorities and important to the residents of this district and business owners of this district and beyond. And sea level rise needs to be attended to, as we are dealing with. And the Coastal Commission, incidentally, has mandated that. So there's no choice to be respectful of what's happening naturally. And I stand with our residents to improve water quality in our bay, our harbor, and our beaches, and clean air, because those are fundamental. That's the economic engine of our community, is clean beaches, clean water, clean air. So it is incumbent upon all of us and every council member to make sure that our city remains robust in these areas. Our economic livelihood depends on our attention to our environment, whether it's sea level rise, clean air, clean water, and we will do everything we can to ensure our water and air is protected and improved. And our economy depends on it. So we have to be responsible and incremental, but we cannot throw the baby out with the bathwater and recreate industries overnight. We have millions of employees who are related to the fossil fuel industry. We have to gradually move to new technologies without destroying the current infrastructure of our economy.
Okay, thank you, Diane. And Cottie, what is your take on climate change as a real problem? Yes or no? Is this a real problem facing our district, our state,
Yes.
and our world?
Yes, climate change, the climate crisis is here now and urgent. Right here in California, we have seen 1,000-year floods, severe drought, and wildfires raging all across the state. The time to act is now, and this is the fundamental challenge confronting our generation. And so California, we've got to continue to advance our climate goals and objectives. We've also got to act to safeguard California, to develop and implement strategies to help us adapt to climate change and help mitigate the impact. So this has been a top priority for me in the Assembly. I fought for legislation to fund renewable energy programs, to incentivize zero emission vehicle production, and to build green infrastructure to protect our Orange County coast and our Orange County coastal economy against the threat of sea level rise. So this will continue to be a really top area of focus for me as I move forward.
May I just make a comment about fires?
Yeah, go ahead. 30 seconds, Diane.
Okay, the key in the wildfire response is wildfire prevention, and forest areas need to be thinned, and areas like Silverado and Cleveland National Forest, which we've just seen experiencing fires, need to be routinely cleared of brush. And the problem is that the state hasn't funded, instead of they fund other things like a bullet train instead of forest management. But this ties into concerns for the environment. Wildfire data has shown that wildfires that we have seen in this year over and over again create more pollution than all the cars on California freeways that will be produced in a decade. The data is there. So one of my first objectives is to make sure we are funding forestry and forestry management to clear the underbrush, to make our communities safe, and deal with the emissions that way, because it really is creating to hazardous conditions and accelerating climate change effects. So let's deal with wildfires in our forests in a responsible way.
Okay, well, we will have another question about wildfires later on. So Cottie, you'll get to follow up on that there.
Okay.
The next three questions will be short answer. Let us begin.
In Newport Beach, when homeless individuals arrived in the city, we used to just send them over to Costa Mesa. Out of sight, out of mind. Apparently, that's frowned upon now, and not to mention, Costa Mesa is part of this assembly district too. And a simple answer for a complex problem, what is the first thing we need to do to mitigate homelessness in our district? Diane, we will start with you.
Okay, well, I've been dealing with this for several years. Let me just state emphatically, this issue starts and ends with Sacramento, but that's not really been helpful. So at the local level, because the state has failed to offer a state solution, we, the city of Newport Beach, working with the county and nonprofit organizations to solve homelessness. I call it one homeless person at a time. The good news, it's exceptionally good news. We are finally close to a joint agreement with Costa Mesa for a sub-regional solution to build a temporary shelter in the airport area away from homes and schools. So the community will be pleased to hear this, and we're just a meeting or two away from signing the document with Costa Mesa. So I'm very thrilled and pleased we can work together with Costa Mesa, because we can't just say these are all Newport Beach homeless people or all Costa Mesa people. We need to work together. We in Newport Beach have a full-time police officer dedicated to the homeless situation, especially in the Boardwalk Pier area and the OC Transit area. And we have a rapid response city staff team who deal with the mental health and drug-related challenges, as well as a police department actively engaged on the enforcement of our laws. We are solving this chronic issue, are dealing with it at the local level. Just know that our numbers in Newport Beach range from, at the last point in time count, we're 60 homeless, then we counted down, we take inventory, it was down to 20. A few months ago now, we're maybe up to higher than 20, somewhere between 20 and 60. So this is a constant, everyday responsibility that we are dealing with to make sure the homeless get the care and get connected with family members, get connected with mental health services, get connected with drug rehabilitation services. And there's many, I'd say over 24 good win-win stories for homeless that are on a path to recovery and living in a home, or Project Room Key, which was a good state program, but now has been canceled, was putting homeless in hotel rooms. So a lot is happening, a lot of the community working together and cities working together, one homeless at a time. I'm encouraged. Thank you.
Diane. And Cottie?
Well, Alex and Riley, as I know you know, every night, more than 7,000 men, women, and children in Orange County, right here, are without a place to sleep. And it's heartbreaking, and it's a humanitarian crisis. And for me, my top priority in this area has been addressing veterans' homelessness. And I was really pleased to be able to secure $2.9 million in funding for state funding for the Orange County United Way for their Welcome Home OC program, which is going to end veteran homelessness here in Orange County. And more broadly, while some cities have been slower than others at coming to the table and really digging in, we are building a system of care here in Orange County. We have emergency shelter capacity is at 100% now across the county. We have permanent supportive housing capacity coming online, and the first of 3 Be Well mental health and wellness hubs is underway. And for my part, I am working to ensure that, number one, Orange County, we get our fair share of funding from Sacramento. Number 2, that we are using these dollars, these taxpayer dollars, on programs that really work, so that we're spending money efficiently and effectively to meet this crisis.
Wow, 2 great perspectives. Thank you both. While certain elected officials believe that if you don't talk about COVID, it will magically go away, the science says wearing a mask and social distancing does help slow the spread. What grade would you give California's COVID response thus far, and why? And let's see, Cottie, we'll start with you.
Well, there is certainly no playbook for a pandemic. Here in California, we have been led by science. We have been led by facts. And right now we are seeing the efficacy of our data-driven approach play out in real time as case counts are spiking all over the country, all over the world. California, we have continued to flatten the curve. We continue to get this virus under control. And this is enabling us to continue to safely and responsibly reopen businesses and get our economy back on track. And I'm committed to continuing to work with experts to build back our community and emerge stronger than before from this crisis.
All right. Thank you, Cottie. Diane, what would you give our response and why?
Well, as I said in my earlier statement, I'm concerned about the recovery aspect and the economic impact. We as a city have been dealing with this issue, as all cities, but since March. And every decision that I have made has been informed with our local hospital medical personnel. I've done several on my Facebook page. You could see my videos I've done with the Hoag Hospital medical professionals. So that's been really informative as to the status of the transmission of the disease and how the county is dealing with it. Today, fast forward to today, our numbers, our positivity rates are below the level that should help us graduate to the next improvement level. Our hospitalization rates are down, or have improved. It's when the governor does change the rules mid-course. So now an additional criteria is for the social equity portion to make sure that the disadvantaged areas of our county are part of the recovery process, and that's absolutely critical and that's important. These businesses were all set to open up again, going to the next level, and then came to a screeching halt. Our county numbers are well within the lowest ranges of positivity, as I said, and the recovered cases, we don't hear too much about this. Recovered cases are over 90%. And now the recovered actual hospitalization rates are down. People are recovering. We now have the therapeutics. People are people who do not have underlying medical conditions are in and out of the hospital or 2 or 3 days, if they go to the hospital. So we're making significant progress. Again, I am concerned with the economic impacts. I think people now are behaving more responsibly. We as a city council, we always wear masks, we socially distance, we wash our hands. I think the examples have been set and are pervasive throughout the county. Just let's wear a mask and get our businesses open. Let's just get it done. And it's unusual to see people without wearing a mask. We did not have to mandate this in Newport Beach, mainly because we have 100,000 people during the summer coming to our beaches. It's impossible to enforce a mask mandate because, and also, quite frankly, I have yet to hear a medical professional say that COVID is transmitted on the beach. So the beach, if people were socially distanced and keeping themselves safe and responsible, and Newport Beach's incident rate is the lowest of even below cities that have mandated masks. So I think the fresh air and being outside is really good for people. They've shown that being shut in is a problem for transmitting the disease. So I think we were really frustrated at the beginning of the COVID when the governor was opening and closing our beaches. I don't think he understood that we think that he was punishing Orange County or punishing Newport Beach. And he didn't realize that open beaches is a nonpartisan issue. A lot of people of all political persuasions like to go to the beach and practice safe practices. So, and experience of fresh air. And also the beach is the only free entertainment in all of Orange County. So we as a city have welcomed the visitors. It's been a challenge and to keep our city and community safe. But also there has been no support from Sacramento.
That's time. Thank you, Diane. You got a lot in there. I think we're all satisfied.
And I'd like to say, Good Morning Newport is free entertainment in Orange County as well. Follow us on Instagram at Good Morning Newport.
All right. So instead of going to the beach, watch Good Morning Newport.
You can do both. You can do both.
Thanks to technology, you can do both.
That's right.
Okay. The simple answer to the homeless question is build more houses, and Sacramento has asked every city in California to do just that. That's made Gavin Newsom public enemy #1 in wealthy coastal cities. What do you say to cities that say they're going to push back on the RHNA housing requirement? And let's start with you, Diane. Let's let you go.
Sure.
What do you say to cities that say they're going to push back?
Okay, well, let me just speak for Newport Beach. We are not pushing back. We are in compliance. This is probably the biggest revenue driver for consultant planners in the state in California, because every city has to have a consultant to deal with their regional housing needs assessment numbers. And every city in the coastal in this district is dealing with these high numbers. In Newport Beach's case, specifically, it's 4,982 properties that have to be identified for affordable housing within the next 8 years. I think Costa Mesa is 11,000, Huntington Beach is 19,000. I might have that wrong, but big numbers. Okay, the city of Newport Beach will be in compliance. We are actually appealing through SCAG, Southern California Association of Governments, because they had the administrative power to decide all of this, mandated. We are appealing for a number of reasons, just because Newport Beach specifically we got ocean on one side, and we've got an airport. We've got property such as Banning Ranch of 400 acres that's precluded. The Coastal Commission has unanimously taken that off the map. We have an airport, we have a bay, and we are built out. So we have a committee. The mayor has formed a housing task force to identify and looking at every single piece of property in Newport Beach that can be converted into residential housing. So that is happening. I mean, just add though, on the legislative front, what is of great concern to, and I talk to communities and residents, that there are bills that are constantly being introduced by the legislature to allow by right, and any developer can scrape a single family residence in a residential neighborhood and build a multi-unit high density apartment building. That is legislation that Senator Wiener in San Francisco is trying desperately to accomplish. And that's really a concern to a lot of people, that their neighborhoods are going to change that dramatically. So in these built out cities, it's a problem, but we will comply as we are.
Okay, thank you very much, Diane. And Cottie, your response. What do you say to cities that say they're going to push back on the RHNA housing requirement?
So you're right that this is a big challenge, and my team and I have been working with the city staff of Newport Beach to navigate some of these issues. We've actually identified a couple of potential areas for legislation and potential opportunities to streamline some of the process. So I will say that, for me as a legislator, and certainly for our partners at city halls across the district, navigating the bureaucracy can be incredibly frustrating. And so one of my priorities is, as chair of the Assembly's Accountability and Administrative Review Committee, to find opportunities to cut the red tape, in this arena and in others. And just very quickly touching on the issue that Diane raised around by right development. So I have opposed Senator Wiener's bills, but I think for a slightly different reason, perhaps than Diane and others. And the reason that I am opposed to sweeping policy changes that change land use across the state of California is because what we saw in the 2008 financial crisis was the total takeover by Wall Street landlords and Wall Street firms of the single family residential market. And any kind of sweeping policy changes at a state level, they don't benefit hardworking Californians. They don't benefit our community. They only benefit Wall Street landlords. And so that's why I've pushed back against those kind of policy changes, and will continue to do so.
Can I just add another comment? While the city appreciated Assemblywoman Petrie-Norris to work with our city, she did introduce a bill, but she couldn't move it out of committee. The committee chair wouldn't. So we closed the legislative session without this relief, and it's too late now. And so she couldn't even move her supermajority Democrat colleagues. So it's a challenge, and cities are reeling, and cities that don't have the capability to deal with this and deal with the bureaucracy, and housing and community development is not responsive. It's a challenge. It's a big, big challenge. And cities are dealing with COVID and shortage and general fund cutbacks. It's a real problem.
Cottie,
and I would just add, let me just add, Diane, if you take the first no for an answer, up in Sacramento or anywhere else, you're never going to get anything tough done. So when the door closes, that doesn't mean that we just shrug our shoulders and give up. We keep pushing, and we keep working for our community and our constituents.
That's great. That's good. That's the right answer.
All right. And that concludes our second round. Great
Hey.
job, everybody.
How many rounds are there? How many rounds?
One last round. One last round. The last round is the long form questions. Now, I always hated these in high school because I knew they were going to take a very long time, and you can only BS an essay for so long. Luckily, in this round, we will cut it off at 2 minutes. Diane, you have a lot to say, but try to just be mindful of the time limit on this one.
Okay.
And
What's the question?
We're not there yet. We're not there yet. Okay, so you knew you couldn't escape this forum with just one COVID question. I think it's gotten brought up 3 times tonight. Here's the long form COVID question. As the state braces for a second wave of the pandemic, what can and should be done differently this time around? And Assemblywoman Petrie-Norris will let you start.
Well, I will say that there's a lot of what we've done that we need to continue to do. We need to continue to be led by science, led by facts, not led by politics, not led by fear. That's what we've done. That's what we're going to continue to do. And I would also say that a truly Herculean effort has been underway all across the state to ensure that we were prepared and that we are prepared for a subsequent surge. We have dramatically increased hospital capacity and capacity across our healthcare delivery system. We have sourced a vast quantity of personal protective equipment, hundreds of millions of units. We have had recruited additional healthcare workers to be part of our emergency response team. And so I feel like we are in a very good position for the risk of a second wave. That being said, I am incredibly hopeful that if we continue to follow the data and we continue to, each and every Californian, 40 million of us, if we continue to wear our masks, to practice distancing, to do everything that we know works, that we will be able to navigate this second wave without having to rely on that capacity. But I want to reassure folks at home that it is there, it is available, and we are prepared.
Right, and Diane, what would you do differently if a second wave of COVID?
I don't disagree with what the Assemblywoman has said. I mean, I'm happy to hear that the state is prepared. I know locally, our local hospitals are prepared. They've always been prepared. They've always been in the single digits and below in terms of hospitalization. So our county has been doing extremely well. I think the business recovery, that's what I keep talking about, is the #1 issue of our economy. The people who are suffering because they're not working or their businesses have closed or they're not open. We just have to get through these tiers, and the governor sets new goalposts each time and pushes it out further, and the suffering is just unconscionable. Even the CEO of Disney resigned from the governor's economic recovery, COVID recovery task force because he's frustrated. And those 28,000 employees of Disney, with the multiplier effect to all the ancillary services and businesses that rely on the tourist industry, whether it's in Anaheim or Newport Beach, are suffering. And the unemployment insurance problem should get fixed during this whole thing. But I will want to say again, I don't want to forget about the poor independent contractors who are suffering under AB5 because they can't work. There are no jobs, and people are not, they can't work in their businesses even legally. So this whole COVID crisis is taking a severe devastating toll on people's lives and their mental health. And I know our medical facilities are ready, standing by and ready. I will say, though, I have heard from our supervisors that our Assemblywoman has not talked with them about opening. I know Supervisor Steele and Wagner have been desperate in their pleas to the governor to help Orange County open. What do we need to do differently? Because we are suffering, and the economic repercussions of this devastation is going to live with us. The COVID, as I said earlier, the therapeutics are there, the hospital stays are minimum. The people who are sadly suffering the greatest are the elderly or people with underlying conditions. So knowing that, we need to address the people who are healthy. And actually there was a story, I think it was in today's Wall Street Journal or maybe the New York Times, that their study has found that there have been more people in California, I believe, that have had COVID, have been exposed, and are carrying antibodies, and they had no idea. So the numbers, perhaps, we talk about data, let's use science, let's use data, but the numbers, maybe far more people are now immune than previously understood. So I think we're learning a lot more now. Let's just get businesses open safely and responsibly.
And
And
let me
schools
just let me just
Yeah,
quickly
Assemblywoman
touch
Norris, go
on,
ahead.
I wasn't really sure what you meant when you said that, Michelle Steele and Don Wagner have been desperate to talk to me. They've got my phone number and they can call me whenever they want. My team and I have been working incredibly closely with the county CEO, Frank Kim, as well as with my own supervisor, Lisa Bartlett, who I will say has been incredibly engaged in finding solutions and in working together to navigate this crisis. And I was really pleased to be able to work with the Board of Supervisors in order to successfully push for expanded testing for our first responders. And we are in close partnership. I have been working incredibly closely with all of them to navigate this crisis, as I have with our local mayors as well, Diane.
And I would just like to say, Michelle Steele could have had an opportunity to chat with us all tonight, but she did decline our invitation to tonight's forum. So could have cleared that up here.
Okay. I think she had a conflict, but anyway, go ahead.
I'd also like to add, none of us started COVID and none of us have dealt with this before. I see so many, it became so political so fast, and that is really digressing any productive movement.
I agree.
Everyone wants businesses to open. Diane, you're a huge proponent of that. The question is, how safe is it? And it's just this giant question mark. So what I took is a lot of the state actions was just kind of playing it safe with people's health. And yes, maybe they prioritized health over the economy, but no one has the right answers. And we're all kind of just grasping at straws and trying to figure this out the best way we can. Science is pointing us in both directions. There's scientists on both sides of the political aisle that will say what needs to be said to back something up. So it is also very hard to tell, like, what is the right science and to be quoting. And we really just need to have a bipartisan effort here and less mudslinging, get away from the politics so that we can move toward productive conversations. I think this was a great start tonight. Let's keep that going.
Wow.
I agree with you.
Could not agree more. And I think you made the point that we are learning new information each and every single day, and that is refining our response and our strategy. And I would just also say that I think saying that it's either we combat this disease or we can reopen is a totally false choice. Because in my view, the only way that we can actually reopen our businesses and get our economy back on track is once we've got this disease under control and people feel safe and people are confident to re-engage. And so I think we have got to do both simultaneously. And that is the strategy that we are trying to move forward in the state of California.
All right, thank you guys. New topic. 2 months ago, California passed SB 145 and false propaganda went wild, claiming California had legalized pedophiles. Let's clear up what this law is before we get into the question. Under Megan's law, judges are able to use discretion in deciding when someone must register as a sex offender. So in a statutory case where a 19-year-old is dating a 17-year-old, the judge can decide that they both do not need to register as sex offenders if they feel that's fit. This discretion that a judge has originally only applied to heterosexual sex, and what SB 145 did was extend this discretion to the judges to other forms of sex that includes the LGBT community. That's it. No political party is supporting pedophiles here in California. So let's just move past that dirty propaganda and look at the real issues in the LGBT community. So our question for you tonight, do you support legislation that either equalizes or protects LGBT rights? And who's starting on this one? Lost track.
I think it's Cottie's turn to start.
All right, Cottie, let's have you start.
Okay. Well, thank you. Yes, I unequivocally support LGBTQ equality, and I'm really proud to be endorsed by Equality California. And I will say I'm really glad that you asked about this. I'm really glad that you clarified what this piece of legislation did. And I will say, Diane, I've been incredibly disappointed by your campaign on this issue. You have twisted this, you have distorted this, you have mounted a real smear campaign around this issue. And frankly, under any circumstances, I would find that despicable. I think particularly in the midst of this moment, in the midst of all of the challenges that we have just been talking about for the better part of an hour, in the midst of this unprecedented crisis for California, frankly, we do not have time for this politics as usual BS. And so I've been really disappointed to see that.
Okay, well, let me respond to that. First of all, just to respond to what you just said, if that's really important to you, you did not even vote. You took a pass on the vote. So if it was really important to you, by abstaining on this bill, it was essentially in support of it, but you didn't stake out your position one way or the other. But let me just explain what the consequences, and this is why I did have communications in my campaign about this, because I think it is a bad bill. It's bad law. So the residents of Assembly District 74 who understand this law are opposed to this law. Let me be clear. The new law, this law signed by Newsom, says any adult who has sexual relations with a 14-year-old is a sexual predator. I mean, that's what the reality is. There is no justifiable reason that they should not be registered as a sexual predator. There's no reason they should not be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. In other words, a 24-year-old man or woman could have sex with a 14-year-old, and that is not legal. I disagree with that. I don't.
Actually, Diane, that's not true. It's not legal at all. This grants judges discretion to choose when someone has to be registered as a sex offender. If there's a rape case, that judge is not going to use discretion to.
It should be clear in the law. It should be clear. Discretion is discretion. It should be clear. Black. Is it a gray issue? It should be.
Well, let me give you an example in the hetero world. When I was in high school, I dated an older woman, and at some point I was 17 and she was over 18. And I don't think we should have to register as sex offenders.
I agree. I'm talking about 14
in a certain situation.
That's not an issue. That's not the issue. We're talking about 14-year-old boys.
Has now just been applied to different types of sex for the LGBT to be considered equal under that discretion law.
I don't know if I
want to abolish the discretion law, then that's another topic. But let's get back to the point.
So that's the point. Let me finish.
LGBT legislation to both equalize and protect their rights.
So I don't think it's true in any gender identity group that a 24-year-old man or woman should have sexual relations with a 14-year-old against their will. I mean, I don't think that should be codified in law, and they are now free to assault young people. I mean, if they're, to me, it's just unacceptable. They're free to assault young people in our communities, in our parks. And I think, so from Ms. Petrie-Norris to say how important it is, she did not vote. Why did she not vote? So in what universe is sexual assault of anyone protected by the law? If it's an assault, it's an assault. A 14-year-old, can a 14-year-old young boy defend himself against a 24-year-old adult?
And Diane, that's the most extreme example there is, and I don't think anyone's arguing that that's okay.
It could happen. Well, now it's codified into law. Now it's legal.
The judge discretion is
whether they should register. All right.
They had a maximum of a 10-year discretion.
There's a loophole. There's a loophole. That is a loophole. I mean,
let's not elect judges that would abuse that loophole.
So now,
again, I'm going to ask politely that we keep this about LGBT rights. Do you have any further comment about supporting LGBT?
Well, sure.
rights?
I mean, everybody should have all the equal rights that are codified in the Constitution or in law. That's fine with me. Of course, but not for sexual assault.
All right. And Cottie, did you have any final comments?
I would just, I think, add to the point that you were trying to clarify that, in no way does this law make sexual assault legal for any age range or, you know, for any segment of the population. That's absolutely not what this law is about. This law is about giving judges judicial discretion to determine whether or not there was a relationship, as you said, in an instance where you're dating a 19-year-old, you know, and you're 17. I think we can all agree that your girlfriend should not have to be on the sex offender registry. And if your girlfriend had been a boyfriend, neither should he.
But if a 14-year-old boy is assaulted by a 24-year-old, then that is sexual assault. And that should be sexually
Agreed.
registered.
I think we all agree there. All right.
We all agree.
See, look at
Okay.
us bridging the gap here.
Bringing it together.
We
Bringing
can
it
agree on the most base of things.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Sexual assault, bad.
Yeah, okay. We can start there. All right, let's move on to wildfires. Something maybe we can also agree on. Orange County's foothills are on fire. Smoke billows across our landscape. Ash covers our clothes. Our eyes are irritated. Most importantly to us here in District 74, our beautiful luxury cars are in serious need of a car wash. This is the new normal that we cannot and will not get used to. If elected, what will you do to mitigate wildfire risk in our region and our state? We talked about this a little bit. Diane, I know you spoke on this before, so Cottie, we'll let you go first on this one.
Okay, well, as we all know, we are not just in the midst of this unprecedented public health crisis. We're also in the midst of an unprecedented wildfire season. Already, more than 4 million acres have been burned across the state of California. We are battling 22 active fires right now, and there are 5,600 firefighters who are on the front line. It's been a truly heroic effort, and you know, I think we cannot give enough thanks to the brave men and women who are putting their lives on the line to protect our families and to protect our communities. And the good news is that we are starting to make some progress now on containment, both here in Orange County and on the containment of some of the largest fires in state history. And so actually when I entered the legislature, knowing that the risk of wildfires was so very real right here in our own backyard, this was a top priority for me. And I have pushed for additional investment in technology to spot and respond to wildfires. I've pushed for additional funding for equipment, for firefighting helicopters, and for new vehicles. And I also was able to secure $4.5 million for the Orange County Fire Authority for a program called FIRUS, which essentially brings military-grade technology to bear on the way that we respond to and fight wildfires. And that system was actually being utilized in the Blue Ridge and Silverado fires. And we are working right now with Cal OES to roll that out all across the state and to upgrade our capabilities statewide. So again, a continued area of focus. Proud of the work we've been able to do with the Orange County Fire Authority, and we will continue to work together to move this forward.
And Diane, if elected, what would you do to mitigate wildfire risk in our region and across our state?
Well, as I said earlier, I think this is not a wildfire response issue, although those new equipments and those kinds of programs I certainly would support, but it's really wildfire prevention. And it's been written up nationally that our forested areas need to be thinned, and the areas like Silverado and the Cleveland National Forest need to be routinely cleared of brush. I mean, that's just kindle for these fires. And this is true in the Northern California fires. Also, this is another issue about energy and how we are supporting our energy companies, but we have these brownouts because the infrastructure of our electric companies has not been as fully supported and capitalized over the last several years because funds have been diverted to renewable programs. And so we've got probably aging equipment that this is what's sparking fires as well to the underbrush. So it's kind of a larger problem. I would look at how we are properly capitalizing our energy, our electric companies, and are they reinvesting in capital improvement? And I think that's a key issue. The problem is the state budget is so starved for funds, but there's enough money for the bullet train of $100 billion. So I don't understand those priorities. So one thing I do want to say that I've learned in all of our fires as I've been as a council member, what is really good in California, so I'll say something good from a state managed, Cal Fire, and how when there is a fire anywhere in the state, the entire community of firefighting agencies respond as directed, as subject to the authority of CAL FIRE. So for example, in these week's fires, City of Newport Beach was deployed, 4 trucks, engines were deployed to the Silverado fire, as well as the Blue Ridge fire. So we have a state that really leverages the capabilities of all of our communities and the fire equipment. So it really is, when we, in the Northern California fires, our fire trucks were deployed, our firefighters were deployed up to Northern California for weeks and weeks and weeks at a time. So it's a really wonderful community sharing under the auspices of CAL FIRE that is really such a good thing for the state of California. But again, I think we should be more focused on directing funds to wildfire prevention. And that's what I would make as a priority as well.
All right.
Okay.
And now to discuss every Orange County politician's favorite topic, taxes. In fact, Michelle Steele's entire campaign is based on 2 words alone: lower taxes. The message is so clear, she never responded to our invite to follow up with more.
Well, she'd already told you.
Job done.
All jokes aside, both of you have referred to yourselves as taxpayer advocates. Please explain how you will stand up for taxpayers if elected. Diane, you'll start this one.
Okay, well, we have a choice on the ballot, Proposition 15, which I have made adamant statements, strongly opposed, because that's the first structural change of our long cherished Proposition 13. So Prop 15 would undermine the commercial property taxation structure, and soon to happen then again, what I predict will be the residential property tax structure, and this will be devastating. So that alone, Proposition 15, no on 15, will talk about all the COVID related economic issues. If Proposition 15 passes, businesses, small and large in California, it will cost billions to catch up with the market rate of assessment, which is what the intent is, allegedly to give money to education. But I think that's to be determined. I'm strongly opposed because small business, especially every small business that's a tenant in any commercial property area, will see their rents increase sky high, and their cost of goods and services will increase. It's devastating. California, we talk about taxation, it just never ends. And there have been 2 proposed bills this last legislative session that Ms. Petrie-Norris supported, with increased income tax, increase the personal income tax rate up to over 15%, and then go after global assets and claw back. If you leave California, you're going to be clawed back. Your personal income is going to be clawed back 10 years. So she voted yes on that. She has not taken a position on Prop 15 to my knowledge. The Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association has endorsed me because of my taxpayer positions, which I'm very proud of, and they have not endorsed her. So I'm concerned about business, and the ramifications of this devastating tax measure will be. Sacramento only knows how to tax personal income tax, property tax. They just want to get it all. Gasoline tax, every tax. And it's true. We are a county that is a giver county. We give more than we get back. And it's a concern to our business owners and to our residents. They fear what's going to happen next, because there is a movement to undo Proposition 13, and people have been vocal about. The proponents of 15 have been vocal about their next step.
All right, some shots fired there by Diane.
Right.
Cottie, well, let's hear your response.
Well, and thank you for that. To be honest, I'm not really sure who you were talking about, Diane. It's kind of this crazy caricature that has no basis in reality. So the reality and the fact is that I don't just, talk about it or stick it on my yard signs. I am actually a proven advocate for Orange County taxpayers. In the Assembly, I have worked to protect Prop 13 and keep taxes low. And I, in fact, received the 2019 Orange County Taxpayers Association Award for my work, and can't believe I'm throwing down over Howard Jarvis, but I'm actually the first Democrat ever in history to receive a 100% score from the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. Diane, you erroneously mentioned that I supported 2 income tax proposals. That is dead wrong. I actually wrote an op-ed opposing those measures and will continue to oppose those measures. And lastly, I would just say that as we get our economy back on track, I am really focused on doing everything that we can to support our small businesses. I have pushed for additional loan funding for small businesses. I have pushed for new state funding to enable our businesses to retain employees and to reopen safely. And I will continue to work closely with our business leaders here in Orange County and statewide to ensure that our businesses are able to survive this crisis and this downturn, and that we position them to thrive as we emerge.
But do you have a position on Prop 15?
So on Prop 15, as I said, I have worked and received an award to protect Prop 13. In terms of the ballot propositions that are being considered by voters this year, I and many of my assembly member colleagues, we take the view that we get to vote on something like 3,000 or 4,000 bills, in a given session. And the propositions are an opportunity for all Californians to have a direct vote and to have a direct voice. And so my vote counts every bit as much as yours does. And so for that reason, I haven't formally endorsed on any proposition.
Okay.
I think this is a rare instance where, like Diane, you are endorsed by Howard Jarvis, and Cottie, you are the first Democrat to receive 100% from them. So while we are squabbling over lower taxes, I think we're all on the lower tax side of the spectrum, perhaps at least for California. So thank you guys. We know around here people like talking about taxes, so glad we could get that one in.
Well, that's why the Register endorsed me. The Orange County Register endorsed me because of my position on taxes.
All right.
All right. Well, one last tax comment. There we go. Okay, no more taxes. This is our final question of the night.
Final one. This is where you can include the opening, closing stuff you had planned. If you need extra time, we'll allow it.
Anything you want to get in, any shout outs,
endorsements, illegal funds you've received. You can say it all.
I'm clean here. So our final question of the night is straight out of the senior class president campaign speech. Why should we vote for you? And please don't promise us free candy or soda in the drinking fountains. We will let you go first, Diane, the challenger. Why should we vote for you for California Assembly District 74?
Well, first of all, let me say my opening statement. Thank you very much, both of you, Riley and Alex, for pulling this together. I think it's really been fun, and it's really good to hear how both of us have slightly different takes on important differences on policy. So thank you for giving our community, our listeners, an opportunity to hear this firsthand. I believe that I am running, and why should people vote for me? I believe the people of Assembly District 74 need someone who will represent their values in the state assembly. I am against higher taxes, as you just heard. I am pro small business, pro public safety, pro education choice, pro taxpayer. My opponent has not voted. She said there are about 3,000 bills. She has abstained from voting on 170 bills at last count, approximately, during the last session. She is paid with taxpayer dollars to represent the people of this district on all matters before her. And as a council member, I have voted on every piece of city legislation before me and have not abstained on a single matter. Thousands of issues. I can't even imagine why I would abstain by not having a position. She has not taken a controversial vote in favor of her constituents. Rather, she votes with the left Democrat supermajority consistently. And I mentioned earlier that only one bill the city of Newport Beach asked her to carry, and she couldn't get it. Now she says she's going to keep trying, but anyway, they slammed her down, and that's really fundamental. It was a simple ask, didn't cost any money. It was just a process related question. Can we slow it down? And it couldn't even get anybody to listen to it. So the Democratic supermajority party leaders do not support our coastal cities. That was a clear example. And apparently she couldn't influence that. So I will represent the people in this district. I've represented for the people of Newport Beach since 2014, proudly and with great honor to serve the people of Newport Beach. And likewise, it would be a great honor to serve all the cities of Assembly District 74. I solve problems, my business background, I come from a business background, solve problems. There's a solution there for something everywhere, and not create more problems for our hardworking resident taxpayers. And I understand how important small business and independent worker success is to our region and to our families. And this will be a #1 focus for me. I listen, I bring people together, I work both sides. And trust me, I will vote on all matters before me. I will represent all the people, all of you who are listening and beyond, the people of this district. And I will listen to people who maybe I don't know if I agree with them, but I will listen to them. I will welcome them into my office and I will talk with them. I'll return their phone calls, which is what I do as a city council person. I've had over 27 town halls in 6 years. I meet with people, I learn from people. I want to hear both sides of an issue. That is what I do. That's what representative government is all about. And I'm proud to serve. And that is a promise. And I thank you, Alex and Riley, for all you do for our community to keep these forums alive. And I appreciate all that you've done. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Diane. We appreciate that because we've not always been perfectly kind to you in some of our reports. So thank you for saying that.
But you have done a great job at listening to the community. We can attest to that, and we're grateful for that. So thank you.
All right. And Cottie, why should we vote for you to be reelected California State Assembly District 74? You have the floor.
Well, as many folks listening know, when I decided to run for office in 2018, it was the first time I had stepped into the public sphere. It was the first time I had run for office. And so I come from the business world. I spent 20 years working for finance and technology companies, large and small here and all around the world. And so when I come at this job each and every day, I don't approach it as a political insider or as a career politician. I really approach this as a businesswoman, as a mom. I've got 2 great boys who are in middle school here. And I approach it as a representative of our community. And I really do think that perspective has served me and our community very well. I decided to run in 2018 because frankly, our district and Orange County, we were getting shortchanged in Sacramento because of just ineffective representation. And in the course of my first term, I have turned the page on that. So as I've mentioned, I've secured millions of dollars in funding for important projects here in our community. And I have authored and passed legislation to combat climate change, to help local businesses expand access to healthcare. And since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, my team and I have been working tirelessly to help laid off employees, frontline healthcare workers, small business owners, and vulnerable seniors so that we can navigate this crisis and set California back on a path to recovery. And as your Assemblywoman, I will continue to fight to protect the California coast, to fully fund our public education system, to create good jobs, and build a California economy where we can all succeed. It really has been a tremendous honor and privilege to represent the 74th Assembly District, and I would be very honored to earn your vote. And thank you, Alex and Riley, so much for doing this, for bringing us together, and for everything that you do for Newport Beach.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes our forum.
Thank you.
Give yourselves a round of applause.
We can't thank Assemblywoman Petrie-Norris and Councilwoman Diane Dixon enough for making the time to make this happen at the end of the campaign trail with so much going on, and speak with us here at Good Morning Newport.
One more message: vote, vote, vote. Just whatever you.
That's
oh,
right. Yeah.
You gotta
it's
vote.
on my necklace. It's on, you know,
No,
on my
look at
necklace.
that.
You gotta do it.
Rock the vote.
The
Yes.
vote's already getting rocked, and there's still 2/3 to go. So
Yeah.
this is going to be a
That's what
wild.
I was going to say in my opening
days.
statement.
People, yeah.
It is getting rocked for sure. We've had more than 140,000 people have already voted in the 74th Assembly District. It's unlike
Yes.
anything we've ever seen.
That's
So
amazing.
it's awesome to
Wow.
see this kind of enthusiasm and engagement. It's great.
100%.
Well, great. And on that note, get ready to blast this. We're going to be posting clips from this forum as well as the entire forum as fast as we can on Instagram at Good Morning Newport. Follow us there and help us spread it around to anyone else who's still voting. And
yeah, and we'll get it up on our YouTube as well. So thank you guys for our two capable candidates,
you.
Diane Dixon
Take care. Have a good
and Cottie
night.
Petrie-Norris. And my director, Riley Hayes, this is Alex Crawford saying from the back bay to the wedge, from Newport coast to the river jetties, good morning, Newport.
Good morning. Bye-bye.